Good afternoon. Today we are going to have the discussion on the relationship between the OT client and the OT consultant. Here we are with the presentation to explain the things better. The consultant and client relationship with reference to the organizational development in the different companies. First of all, we all know that the relationship between the OT client and the consultant is based on the trust. Already, it has been stated by Edgar Schein in his 1999 model that the relationship should be based on the mutual understanding and trust. So, what does it mean by the mutual understanding and trust? I will explain in the latter half of this discussion. First, let us see that how this relationship builds up. What is the process of integration? First of all, the client will present the problem in front of the consultant. As we know that the problem basically is of client's liabilities, because the problem will be there for the client, whether it is a reactive problem identification or proactive. The client needs to present the particular problem to the consultant. Now, after receiving the problem from the client, the consultant needs to have a thorough analysis that has been referred here. You can see on screen as the diagnosis. Now, as we know that the diagnosis means identifying the root cause of a problem, so the client also needs to do that. How he will do that? How they will do? For that, he needs to do certain interventions. The first intervention is definitely the interrogation, the way the doctors ask us about our health issues, the problem. Similarly, the consultant needs to ask the client that what exactly the problem his organization facing. Now, other than this interrogation in case of this should be very, very structured. There should be some survey. There can be the survey feedback. There can be some appreciative inquiry, whatever be the nature, but it should be a proper survey through a structured questionnaire or the structured interviews, whatsoever the process used, but ultimate methodology is used. Ultimately, the consultant should know about the problems from the client in thorough details. Next one will be the type of diagnosis that the consultant should perform is that the consultant needs to come to the organization. It's an entry of the referred as the entry of the consultant in the organization, where he needs to talk to each and every level of the employees. OD is not at all restricted to a specific level of the employees in the organization. It encompasses all. It includes management, it includes the trade unions even, as well as it includes each and every employees of the organization. So that's why the consultant needs to talk to them. If not possible to be interacting with each and every one, they can use the small groups like the T groups and the sensitivity groups, through which he can get the feedback. So this way, ultimately, the consultant can receive the information. Receiving the information will not be enough. He needs to analyze and ultimately he needs to identify the problem. Now, you can see it is written as the first point that the trust is the backbone of the relationship. It's quite understandable that if the trust is not there, the client will not be able to share his details with the consultant, because he will be sharing all the confidential details. So the trust should be there. The consultant should act responsibly, and then the proper relationship will exist between the consultant and the client. The client needs to rely on the consultant's expertise. And finally, as it's written, you can see that the consultant acts as a role model for the client. It's very, very essential, because in the organization, when actually organizational developmental process is being executed, the consultants will play the role of the change maker. We call them the change agents. He will bring about the change in the organization. So the client needs to rely completely on him, and through that particular process, he will get the relationship amongst them will be much more reinforced, and it will be more strengthened. Now, there are certain problems that have to be faced by both the consultant and the client. That's why it has been referred as the challenges of OT intervention. It has not been referred as the challenges of OT consultation. These are the challenges that will be faced by both the management and the consultant. First of all, the management of the performance of the consultant to enhance the accountability. If the consultant fails to perform, then definitely there will be a gap in the accountability. Building the pipeline of the qualified leaders. OD is a lengthy process. It's a continuous process. So it may happen that for time being, the management is being represented by one individual, but it may happen that that person will be superannuated. He may leave the organization, he may resign and go away. So all these things can happen. But if the person changes, it should not change the OD process. The leaders should be made ready in tandem so that the consultant can talk to he can get a continuous flow of able leaders if needed at all. Next, the career development needs to be communicated to all because an organization will have a multi-generational workforce. So the OD is actually being performed to develop the entire organization so as to develop the skill set and knowledge base of the workforce as well. Now, telling them and convincing a young generation is a lot easier compared to our employee group with advanced age, because there will be some resistance developed. They will not like to learn at all. They will enjoy a status quo. So that's why it is a challenge. Next one, the communication of the organizational priorities should be strategically communicated. We cannot do it out of the haste. We cannot implement it forcibly. We have to communicate it in a very strategic way. If not done, then there will be the resistance as per the resistance model of Cartlev. Next one, it's a challenge to engage the diverse workforce in the organization. It's a challenge to manage the employees who are stationed away from the organization, the remote employees, we can say. And finally, the new employees, the new workforce, either they are those who will join or those who have just joined, because they are completely reluctant, or if not reluctant, at least they are ignorant about the organizational culture and practices. To make them accustomed to the organizational culture and practice is a true challenge for the consultant and the management. So it's together, it's a challenge for the entire OD intervention process itself. So these are the different challenges that are to be addressed by the consultant and the client in case of OD. So these are the basic areas which structures the entire process consultation methodologies. So with this, I shall conclude here, but we shall continue with the case studies on OD, and we shall continue with that type of video lectures where the case studies will be presented, discussed. So we shall continue with that. So till that point of time, thank you very much. Stay indoor and stay safe.